Ladies and gentlemen, children of Limpley Stoke and Freshford, representatives of other community shops and funding organisations, honoured guest, and everyone else. My name is Hugh DeLapp, and as Chairman of Freshford Parish Council, and on behalf of Simon Coombe, Chairman of Limpley Stoke Parish Council, who can't be with us today, I've got to welcome you to this grand opening of the Galleries community shop. As you can see, the Galleries shop and cafe is complete. It is fitted out, fully stocked, and has already been trading well beyond expectations for over a month. I'm told that people from more than 200 households in the two parishes have come together and contributed to this achievement, whether by generous financial donation or in kind or both. The land the beautiful building stands on is a gift. People of all skills, whether professional or craft, have given of them freely. It seems unfair that I can't mention everyone by name. A great deal has happened in the 3 years since we heard that the last shop and post office in the two parishes was due to close. Freshford Parish Council was particularly closely involved at that time, until Gitta Dawson assembled the first group of irregulars drawn from both parishes, who regularly met in her house to exchange ideas on how shopping and a post office could be preserved. To understand why I cannot list everyone, just recall how much has happened since those early days. The search for a site. Could an old building be converted? The search for funding. And if you'd like to see the sources of funding, there is a list of the organisations involved on the notice board inside the shop. The design of the new building, the long struggle to obtain planning permission, the building works, the recruitment of the manager and volunteer staff, the survey to find out what the shop should stock. And until very recently, the 2-year gap between the closing of the doors of the old shop and the opening of this one has been filled by the 2 mornings a week, slightly quirky temporary post office with cake and coffee above the surgery, where the facility to meet somewhat casually was never discontinued. Many people have been involved. Having said that I'm not going to name everybody who deserves thanks, I've got to thank again Gitta and Stephen, without whom, quite simply, what you see here today would not have happened. And I'm sure they would say that we mustn't forget those who worked alongside them tirelessly through thick and thin. Nor must we overlook the band of unsung volunteers both in this shop and the interim one, not to mention the ladies who cooked the cakes that went with the coffee and the chat. But there are 2 ladies who should get a special mention. The Horticultural Society have made this splendid show of flowers in front of me, in fact it's behind me, and Sonia Fullers, with her flair for design, funding and sheer hard gardening, has given us the herb garden that you can see beside the shop behind me. Very, very many thanks. And just a few years younger, enormous thanks to Harriet Mackenzie, who gave up much of her school holidays to explaining quietly and calmly to any volunteer who was wise enough to listen the mysteries of the electronic till. If you still don't know how it works, you weren't listening. Harriet, where are you? Harriet, as a special recognition of this sacrifice, I've been asked to present you with this gift from a very grateful shop management committee. And now, as chairman of one of the 2 parish councils that are very proud to have this magnificent community facility and achievement on our doorstep, I shall hand you over to Stephen, who will invite our honoured and famous guest to set in motion the grand opening of your splendid and already well-loved shop and cafe. Thank you all very much indeed.
Thanks very much, Hugh. Well, I'm delighted to welcome Midge Ewer, who has agreed to come along and perform this grand opening ceremony. And before then, I gather there are some people here who haven't heard of Midge Ewer, people who perhaps... apparently there are some people, I think there may be Freshford people, but people who were into Beethoven and Beatles, Beethoven rather than Beatles, and the sort of Swan Lake Ballet rather than Spandau Ballet. But for those of you who hadn't heard of Midge, just a few little bits of biographical notes. One of the high points of his career was in 1981 when he was the frontman for Ultravox. They had a great hit with Vienna. I'm sure many of you will remember that. And in fact, the Ultravox band, although it didn't last many years, was extremely successful through that time. They had, I think it was 7 top 10 albums in succession over a period of 6 years. He also had a solo career after the band broke up for a year or two, and had a #1 hit with If I Was. And then in the meantime, he was very heavily involved with the whole Band Aid movement. He co-wrote with Bob Geldof the hit song Do They Know It's Christmas. He co-organised the Band Aid concert in 1985, the year after the record was released. The record sold over 3 million copies worldwide, and the whole thing was a huge fundraising success and made a big contribution to tackling the terrible famine in Ethiopia at that time. And Midge is still a Band Aid trustee, so he's still very much involved. He's going out to Ethiopia very shortly. So that was a big part of his early career. And then earlier this year, Ultravox reformed, and they had a sellout concert tour in the UK. We went along to the Bristol one, which was fantastic, and this culminated in a very successful event at the Roundhouse in London. And they're planning a European tour for next year. So Ultravox lives again. Midge lives locally, so we're hoping he'll be popping in to the shop to get his porridge oats and organic yogurt, and of course for a cafe and croissant in a cafe. So he's already helped us with publicity. He was on BBC Radio Bristol breakfast show yesterday morning, said some very nice things about the shop then. But without further ado, I'll hand over to Midge, who will say a few words, and then he will invite the winner of the poster competition to help him in the onerous task of cutting the ribbon. Midge, you're up.
Where's a roadie when you want one? Yeah, all those wonderful accolades there, and now I'm in Freshford. I thought long and hard about why Stephen asked me to come and do this, because I'm not used to opening shops yet, and I've come to the obvious conclusion that I'm free and local, which helps. This is a kind of shop aid, really, when you think about it. It's not a million miles away from what we tried to do back in 1984. You know, the idea of community, pulling people together with a kind of communal element is not new, but incredibly important. You know, we live in a village that doesn't have a local shop, and it's a nightmare trying to get into Tesco's on the corner, you know, to go and pick up your bag of sugar or whatever is just hideous. So having something like this on your doorstep is wonderful. Especially if, like me, you happen to be a failed master chef contented. And we've got a fabulous day for this, isn't it? Just wonderful. It's just glorious. I've got these things that I have to do. This fabulous poster competition, which I didn't hear about because I could have entered it. And I've got to read out the winners of this, so if you bear with me, I will read out the names of the winners in reverse order. So we have 3, and then I'll show you the pictures. So in 3rd position we have, from year 1, Phoebe Ritchie with this Through the Round Window. Here we go. Fantastic. Brilliant. Is it just me? Is it just because I'm Scottish? But maybe the way to launch a shop isn't to start by giving things away. Number 2, one of the obviously incredibly talented Parker family. Emma, who did this. Do we have Emma? Yeah, patio fright is a horrible thing. And finally, a fabulous thing. I hope this is going to get pride of place inside the shop, yes?
We are planning to make postcards.
Wonderful. Postcards and posters, fabulous. Maddie, the winner. Okay, so we're just about to cut the ribbon, but before I go, in not quite the same time-honoured words as my Band-Aid Live Aid compadre, please spend your money. Okay. Here we go. Yay!